welcome back. After a short holiday break, we are back. And today in this workshop, we want to move step by step through an executive project. With the help of the tools I will introduce, we want to produce a good output and animation from this project. This is an executive project called Avin. And Miss Helia Deldar was both the architectural designer and the 3D artist for this project. The two images you see here are renders from this project. Actually, in the rendering process, we also used post-production and artificial intelligence. Your project could have other documents or renders, or even photos we've taken. It doesn't matter, because to start, we need some data and information. And here these two renders are the data and information we have at our disposal. And with their help, we want to build our animation. The final output we want to create is an Instagram Reels size. That is 1080 by 1920 pixels. As you can see, these renders and the other materials of this project have very different sizes. So in the first step, we need to resize to the Instagram Reels size. One of the best ways to resize images is using Midjourney. We can very easily go to the edit section here and select our image or its render. When the image is loaded, we need to define a prompt for it. We can either describe the scene with a prompt ourselves or use the suggest prompt feature to generate a prompt from the image. I just removed the v6.1 at the end of the prompt so that the image is generated with the latest version, version 7. Now, I go to the Move and Resize section and set the aspect ratio to 9:16 so that it exactly matches the size we want for Instagram Reels. Now we can move the image to any position we like. The prompt is ready. The ratio is set to 9:16, and now we click Submit Edit and wait for the new images in this ratio to be generated. Alright, the top and bottom parts of these images have all been newly generated with the ratio we defined, and the blank parts of the image have been reimagined. Now we can choose whichever one we want. To get an even better result, I can return to the original image and use the paint tool to erase a bit of the bottom of this image so that that part also has to be newly generated. I submit it again, and let's see the new results. Okay, here are the new images that gave even better results. This is great, and the last one looks like this. This image was very good. Only that little logo added at the bottom has a slight problem, which I can easily fix. I select that part with the paint tool and click Submit again. Using the same prompt, that part will be regenerated. Perfect. You can see the new images now. Choose whichever one you like. Click Upscale to Gallery again so that you have a larger version of it in the Create section. Now, I need one keyframe without the girls. For that, I go back to the Paint tool. I activate the Paint tool, make it a bit smaller, and select the region where the girls are. I make sure to include all details, like their shadows. Here our prompt is very important. In the prompt, in the part referring to the girls, you can see it says, 2 girls wearing hijab walking in the middle of the street, and some description. I delete that part completely and then click Submit. 4 images are created for us with those children removed. You see, the building detail is fully added in that area. Yes, I think this last image is the most suitable. Choose whichever one you like. Again, click Upscale to Gallery so that you have a larger version of it in the Create section. So far, from one square render, we have made 2 images in real size, one with the kids and one without the kids. Let's move on to our second render and resize it. I upload it, click Suggest Prompt, remove v6.1, set the ratio to 9:16, and then click Submit. 4 images come up. The bottom portion of the image is more important. If any of these look good, I select it. If not, I click Submit to generate a new set of images. From these new images, I choose this one and click Upscale to Gallery. I return to Create and wait for the image to be upscaled. Here is the final result, and we can see really good detail in the parts that were added. So up to this point, we have prepared 3 real-sized images from our project. We can call these keyframes, which will help us in creating our animation. Now, depending on the scenario we write, the number of keyframes can vary. For my scenario and the animation I want to produce, I need more keyframes. So we're going to use an AI called Nano Banana to create additional keyframes from this project and scene, and then we'll go back to Midjourney. To start, I go to the Google Gemini website, where I can access Gemini and Flash 2.5. I click Create Image and then click Add to upload the bird's eye view image of that tower. In my prompt, I specify that the white building should be removed and replaced with an empty dirt ground, now surrounded by fence, tarp, and blue sacks. I also definitely mention change the cars, because this is very important for our animation. And I finish by saying that the rest of the scene should remain as it is. I click Submit, and very quickly the image with the changes I specified in the prompt is generated. This is amazing. This AI Nano Banana is currently the best AI for editing images. That means with our prompt, we can edit our images so that everything in the scene is preserved. The lighting is the same. The other buildings are the same. Everything is kept as it is. But according to the prompt, it has changed the cars and removed that building. And now there is an empty dirt ground surrounded by fence and blue sacks. Everything is great, but I see one bug, or a problem here. It has made the area of the land bigger. If you notice, the neighbor behind has been removed, and its land has been included as part of this building's plot. Fixing this is simple. I go back to Nano Banana. This time in the prompt, I also make sure to say to keep the neighbors and the neighboring buildings. I run the image generation again to see what result we get. I don't think it could be any better than this. Look at the original image's neighbor. In our first attempt, that neighbor was removed, but by changing the prompt and trying again, that neighbor building is preserved. Exactly the area we wanted removed is removed. The building is gone. The dirt area is visible. Let's create the next keyframe. I upload the original building image again, and in the tools I activate Create Image. This time I write this prompt. I ask it to transform this white building into a half-finished building that is about 50% constructed, with the columns and construction details visible. I also want a crane and construction details around the building, and I say the rest of the scene should remain the same and that the cars should change again. I click Submit and wait for the result. That's incredible. Now I have three main keyframes: the empty ground, the initial, structure, skeleton, and the completed facade. I can use these in the animation process. Now, let's build our last keyframe. This time, I add that empty ground image, and in the prompt, I also ask it to zoom in and have a close-up view of the white car in the middle of the street. In the background, the empty ground with the blue fence should be visible. In other words, a lower, more close-up angle of the project. Here is our final keyframe, the same site, but the camera is placed at ground level and we see the site and project from another angle. Alright, let's review our keyframes. Keep in mind, the animation will start according to these keyframes. Keyframe 1 is the start of the animation, showing the camera at a low angle of the site. Then, we gradually move to keyframe 2, where the camera goes up to a bird's eye view. Then, keyframe 3 is activated, and the construction starts. Next, our facade comes into view, which is keyframe 4. Then, in keyframe 5, the camera moves and enters into this alley. And in keyframe 6, the kids enter the scene from behind the camera. So the scenario is defined in this way with these keyframes. Now, it's time to use an AI video generation tool that can produce a video from keyframes. Midjourney is one of the best for this. I go to the Create section, click Add, and use keyframe 1 here. For the end frame, I consider keyframe 2. In the prompt, I give a simple instruction that the camera should move slowly and reach the bird's eye view. I click Submit and wait for 4 videos to be generated. The videos are ready, and we can download whichever one we like. You see, all of them go from keyframe 1 to keyframe 2, with that prompt we gave, where the camera slowly moves to reach a bird's eye view. Now for the second clip. The starting frame is the end frame of the previous clip. That is the bird's eye view. For the ending frame, I use the image with the columns and initial skeleton. In the prompt here, I said we should have a time lapse of a construction site, where the building is stacking up floor by floor, and we see movement of workers and a crane. This is our animation according to the prompt. The building's floors are coming up one by one. The crane is moving and the workers are moving around. If the cars had remained static, the video would have looked really unrealistic. That's why we changed the cars in our new images. And in the end, we can download our video. For the next clip, similarly, I use the skeleton building image as the start frame, and the original completed facade image as the end frame. The prompt I used for this clip was a time-lapse of constructing the facade, floor by floor from the bottom. I click submit and wait for the videos. Midjourney's video generation speed is really fast. You can see that each of these videos shows the building forming in a slightly different way. I think this turned out to be a nice and fun example. You can even try more diverse prompts to achieve the result you want. Now for the fourth clip, we need to go from the bird's eye view down to the street level view inside that alley by the building. For this clip, I use this prompt, a time lapse of the camera moving around the building. The videos are ready. I have generated 2 series of videos for this, and each one gives a different result. The first one turned out really well. It shows both the overhead view and then returns to the street showing 2 sides. The others similarly vary. Here you see each one behaves a bit differently, and some have bugs. In my opinion, this particular video is very good. And now for the final clip, the 5th one. The starting frame is that street view in the alley, and the ending frame is the same view with the kids present in the alley. The prompt I used here was that the camera is fixed, and the kids enter the scene from behind the camera. I click submit and wait for the result. This is our final clip. We can download whichever one we like. Keep in mind that now we have 5 clips that need to be arranged sequentially. We can add some nice sound or effects to them to finalize the video. Thank you for watching this free tutorial. It would be great if you shared it with your friends and subscribe to our channel for more free tutorials.